live streamed. Stay in the meeting. You can consent to being live streamed. Anyone with access to the live stream can watch or share the others. Got it. That's cool. That's cool. That's cool. I'm sure a bunch of people are gonna be like, what are you doing? It's like, I'm live streaming. Be like, what are you doing? Uh-oh. Like, I'm live streaming. Uh-oh. Hold on a second. Uh-oh. Hold on a second. Check 1, 2, checking 1, 2. Shield mode, shortcut, blah, 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 whatever that means. Activate. Oh, can activate shield mode in one click. You can remove the shortcut in your shield mode settings. I don't know what shield mode is. You're back. I'm not Gucci. Hold on just a second. I'm not back. I am teaching a class and live streaming through Twitch to see if it works.
On the Samsung side, they have folding phones and an epic camera.
But we're waiting for all that to come over here.
Nice. It's already
So
over there.
let's see.
Dude, we wait.
All right, so I'm gonna mute. All right, Sonia's here as well. Okay, cool, cool, cool. So you do not have to do anything you don't want to do in this chat. We're gonna do basically it's a Q&A. It's anything you guys want to chat about. It does work. I can hear everything. Awesome. No worries, buddy.
Awesome. Well, I can hear you twice.
Okay.
It's like a.
No worries, buddy.
Awesome. Well, I can hear you twice.
Okay.
It's like a. No worries.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
All right, so I'm muting. So I'm wondering, so are you using 2 different devices right now or just one? Okay, hold on.
just one.
Okay, check 1, 2, check 1, 2. Is it still echoing?
No, good.
I don't know what I did.
It's good now. It's good
Okay.
now, whatever.
Okay, I am making sure that Twitch is twitching. You got face cam on. I got banned when I had it. Oh, okay. So just so you guys know, a heads up, I am trying to roll this on Twitch as well, just so that I can give anybody that wants to use that format instead, they can. So we're just kind of testing things out. We've got Zoom going, we've got Twitch going. And part of the reason for that is that's my backup if for whatever reason, Zoom does something wonky and is like, oh, yeah, I know you wanted to record this, but it didn't work or something along those lines. The difference is Twitch is delayed by, oh, it says Minecraft. Twitch is delayed by about 30 seconds. Let me see if I can edit that information out because I'm not on Twitch. That's part of the reason why. Let me report live stream, report something. All right, well, we're not twitching, y'all. We're doing real estate recap for the prerequisites. And that's just supposed to be helping you guys out a little bit. No big deal if it is not working. It looks like I've got a number of students jumping in. Just as a side note, hey, Gucci, we will game again someday very soon. I just happen to use this as one of the platforms. Okay, so it's not that I don't want to game with you. It's just that we're trying to do a couple other things on this. Let me check one more thing. I know you're on your Zoom, but I'm headed back. Okay, cool. Okay, so let me put I'm going to put the message on airplane mode so I don't have that pulling as well, because I'll start getting evenings or when you get the messages like, hey, what are you doing? You know. Okay, so we have that taken care of. We have a couple other things taken care of, but just be encouraged. Oh, thanks so much. Gucci said, have a good class. Okay, so I've got iPhone coming in the door. It looks like we have a few different students. So I don't know which students are coming from which classes, but I'm not that worried about it. If you have a question or you want to talk about anything regarding class, let me know what the question is and we'll move forward.
All right, let me just like listen to this for 10 minutes. You guys.
You can listen to it for longer than 10 minutes if you want to. All right. However long you guys want to stay, you can. We're just trying to figure out what questions or concerns that you guys might possibly have with regard to any and all of the assignments. I got an email from one of my students in one of the online classes that says that one of the quizzes that they're going through is asking a lot of math questions. So as an example, if you are doing student directed courses with me, and you're getting a lot of math questions and it's in unit 5, that would be for everybody with, there is a PowerPoint presentation near in that same module with unit 5. If you're one of the people that was in class with me today, it's not in your unit 5, but there should be an appendix in the, let me see where the appendix is. Let me open up the practice class. No, principles class. Because I think you have an appendix A, principles. Looking for the book. California principles. Okay. So I'm going to go to page at the back. Oh, this is the old book. That's not going to benefit us. Let me open up the book in our Google Drive. CarePren content. Let me look that up. Okay. I should be able to share it. Oh, admit Diego, absolutely. Come on in. Everybody come on in. We are going to be talking about the, you guys should have an appendix that gives you the opportunity to review the math. Now, how many math questions are going to be on each of the state exams? It's going to be 3, roughly 3 exams. I mean, sorry, 3 questions about math. And usually one of the questions about math is how many square feet is an acre? And it's like 43,000 and some change. That is something that you're going, it's like on every quiz. It's not like on every quiz, it's on every quiz. So let me share the screen. It'll take me just a minute to do so. Sharing screen. I should be able to share the screen in the shape it's in right now. So the appendix is usually at the back of the book. So 372 pages. I'm going to say 370 and see where we are. So we've got the glossary. There's usually a math appendix at the back. If you do not have a math appendix at the back of your book or appendix A, I'm scrolling through the PDF right now. So for those of you that do not have the books yet, there are PDF versions, depending upon what class you're in. If you're in the independent study classes, there's the study books, right? And those ones come directly to you. I don't have that. Answer key is the appendix B. Here we go. Appendix A starts on page . Appendix A starts on page 313. So if you have any questions or concerns, we actually do not do any review of the math for the real estate, but I did have a question about like, what do we do? So there are terms that you need to be able to follow. What's a decimal point, divisor, dividend, interest, principal. You might be asked some of these questions on the state exam, but the state exam is really going to be pushing you for other things. Are you in the classes on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday going to be question in the book on the math information? No. This Appendix A at the back of the book is for your review, so you have some familiarity on what is going to be asked of you on the state exam. It's the practice book does give you a few questions. Now, if you're in the independent classes with me, those ones, there's actually questions on the quiz in Unit 5, and you need to review the PowerPoint that's associated with it in your online platform. So that's basically the difference between the two classes that I am working on, that are taking the two classes that are taking the principles class right now. So there's that. If you are looking for additional questions or have, Frankie, am I not supposed to be here? Oh, no, you can be here, Frankie. I'm just teaching a class and we're rolling it over to, we're rolling it over to Twitch just to see if it works. So you can totally be in. I'm literally in a class, and I have more than one option. So they have Zoom or they have Twitch. I just wanted to see if I could make it work. Let me know what questions that you guys have with regard to, well, regard to anything, actually. What are your questions? What are your concerns? What can we review while we're in class right now that you feel comfortable asking? This is supposed to be a casual experience for you to ask any questions about real estate. But if you don't feel comfortable, that's okay too. You can put it in the chat. You don't have to set it up so that we can see it. I mean, nobody else needs to know that it was you that asked the question. That might be a better way of putting it. But let me see what notes we had. I think we did. We put the photo in the PowerPoint today in class, right? And then what were the other notes that I had on stuff for us to do? We confirmed that mechanics liens would get done over at the county recorder's office, right? Quizlets for Unit 2. We talked about fructose naturalis in class, but the editing of the question on the Quizlet, so everything's being auto-populated over to a new set of Quizlets, but for now, that's where we are. Google link list of terminology. I think we did that. Please clarify and give better examples of.
Hey, Kathy.
Yeah. Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you? I know in our class, a couple of people mentioned wanting to go over Unit 2 again.
Yeah.
What do you think is most important? Well, obviously all of it, but what would you say is most important for us to take away from that unit?
The most important thing to take away from Unit 2. That's a really good question. I don't actually have any one like set thing that I want you to set up with, but I want you to study the terms more than anything in each of the units. But specifically, let's open Unit 2's book, or the book for Unit 2, or the book in general. I think we would be on page, let's go to page 15-ish. Because that, I think 1 through 10 is the first page. Bill of Rights. Yeah. Here we go. Okay, so Unit 2, property, estates, and ownership. You definitely need to understand not a living trust. Let me start again. You definitely need to understand ownership. The bundle of rights is massive. So please take note of the bundle of rights, not just for your open book exam, but for the state exam. You need to know what the bundle of rights are. And the bundle of rights aren't hard to remember. You get to use the property within the legal ramifications of the law, right? You get to possess the property. When it means possess, it obviously is not meaning on the Halloween version of possession or the whatever. It's literally meaning every nook and cranny of that property. You have the right to build, to plant a flower, pull out of weeds, pour cement, do all of the things. But you also need to remember that as you possess the property, whatever you do at that edge of the property could hinder your neighbor from having their quiet enjoyment. And quiet enjoyment is the thing that we want, right? You're allowed to transfer the property. You're allowed to sell the property. You're allowed to give it away. You're allowed to get loans. That's what encumbering means. But enjoyment is a key factor. So use, possess, transfer, encumber on page 11. I want you guys to remember that. I know the learning objectives in unit 2 are at the front, but identifying the bundle of rights is key. Specifying, being able to specify the types of estates. We've talked a number of, even through unit 5, we've talked about the air rights, right? Or the space above the property and the rights to it. Sonia brought up, no, it wasn't Sonia. Who was it that brought up in class today about a property where the airstreams? I apologize. I can't remember who it was.
I think that was Sonia.
It was Sonia. Okay. I think part of the reason I catch myself thinking it's not Sonia is I think she spells her name with a J, or that's in the class. And so I want to call her Sonja, but that doesn't make sense. But I should know that the J is a ya and not a ja, but here we are. Yeah. Welcome to whatever Kathy's mind is thinking at the time. You definitely need to know the difference between personal property and real property. So we know what personal property is. My earbuds are personal property. I put them in my pocket and I run off and do my thing, right? Whereas real property is what I'm sitting in right now, or not what I'm sitting in right now. This is what would be considered an addition to the property, right? Real property is the land. And then anything that's been added to the land. The house has been added to the land. Obviously, the house is not finished, and we'll get to that at another time. But knowing the difference between real property and personal property is extremely important. Understanding fixtures, understanding if it's hardwired into the wall. That was me, Bubba. If it's hardwired into the wall, if it's a fixture that's growing in the property, right? Oh, per attribut. That's a good thing to bring up. Life tenant is responsible for mortgage and taxes. No, not mortgage. Sonia, that's an awesome point. The property taxes for sure. Does this build the credit of the life tenant? And if the life tenant is negligent, would it affect the owner's credit? In what situations do people choose to do this? Okay, so per attribut, that's a really good request to talk about. So usually with per attribut, we're talking about somebody that owns a property. Let's look up the image of Tom. Bum, bum, bum. Tom and his telenovela. I don't know what it is about Tom, but I do not trust that man, even as far as I can throw him. Okay, so the new book doesn't have the pictures. The new book doesn't have the pictures, Kathy. We're getting the pictures out because I think the pictures make the most of it. Well, they don't make the most of it, but I think that they will help. So let's do this. Principles, unit 2. There we are. Hello, beautiful. Let's do this. So I'm going to ask you guys some questions. As soon as I see Tom and his questionable look on his face, Tom. Sorry, guys. To me, I just look at that dude and I was like, he's got like 3 families in 2 other countries. He's got 1 here and 2 other countries, which doesn't have to make sense to anybody else except me. Where's Tom? There's Tom. Hello, Tom. Okay, so we're talking about per attribut. So there's a few questions here that are kicking it and making it rain. I appreciate what Sonia has to say. Sonia, love the spelling of your name. Okay, per attribut, let me close it down. Life tenant is responsible for mortgage and taxes. Okay, hold on. Life tenant, let's look at this gentleman and his questionable. That guy is definitely up to no good. Well, that's a rude thing to say. This is Dynasty circa 1985 right here. And Susan, she's just an honest young woman who's just trying to do her best in life, and Elizabeth has no idea. So anyway, we'll get back to it. So per attribut, Tom grants the life estate to Susan. So he's like, hey, Susan, I'm giving you this property to take care of and maintain and pay the property taxes on it. And you get the privilege of doing all of those things as long as Elizabeth is alive, right? Elizabeth down here, with the provision that it will, once Elizabeth kicks said bucket, the property gets to go to Laura. So Susan, do me a favor, keep the property in good shape. Make sure that Elizabeth is in good shape, at least for your life, because once Elizabeth is no longer with us, Laura gets to kick you out if Susan can outlive Elizabeth. And Elizabeth, she looks like she's doing okay, but let's be honest, we don't know. We don't know. Okay, so per attribut in this situation, Tom has given this property to Susan on the life the living time that Elizabeth's going to be with us, right? Susan's given the property with no debt other than she has to pay the property taxes and maintain the property. Tom cannot have a loan on that property during this time. Susan, however, can go get a loan in her name because she has it as a life estate. Now, if you're a bank and Susan walks in the door, are you going to lend on to her on this home? Think about it. Because Tom can't give her a debt. He'd have to sell her the property because, or she'd have to assume the loan. The lending institution is not going to be like, oh, Tom, it's just a life estate. We're going to totally let you, we'll cover you on this one. No. The bank's going to be like, Tom, we totally get that you want to give this life estate to Susan. Basically, he's handing title to her, but on the life of Elizabeth. And if something happens to Elizabeth, Laura gets the property. So there's no debt, there's no loans on said property. Tom is literally saying to Susan, you get to have this property on the condition that Elizabeth stays alive. And if Elizabeth passes, then Laura gets the property. You need to make sure the property taxes and the maintenance are done for this to continue to have this as a property with human habitation, if you will. There is no loan. And if Susan needs help on something, she's going to have to figure out how she's going to do that, because she's technically not going to be able to get a loan on it, because a bank is going to be hard pressed to go after Susan for the debt secured against that property if Elizabeth passes, because the property is going to go to Laura. So in this scenario, when we talk about per attravi, when we're talking about this situation or this scenario, we're talking about something that would happen. It's a rare happening, but I would venture to say that it would be within a family versus like this situation. What if Susan is Tom's sister? And Susan and Laura had Elizabeth, and basically Tom's like, hey, I know we're divorced, but Laura, you can totally have the property because I know that if something were to happen to Elizabeth, she'd want you to be taken care of. So this is how I want to handle the situation. Like in that scenario, it something like this might happen. If you guys have a better situation or a better way of building this story, let me know. But basically, per attravi is Tom owns the property free and clear. He hands the life estate to Susan and says, the only thing you can't do is sell this property, but you can get a loan. If a bank will let her get a loan, the bank will let her get a loan. But that would be a situation where they might not be able to secure it against the house, but maybe against her and her car, like her credit in her car or something like that. So that if something did happen to Elizabeth, the bank wouldn't be out the money. Does that make sense? I mean, it doesn't have to make sense, but does that
Seems like a mess, but
oh my gosh, you don't even know. Like some of the stuff that transpires, you're like, why did they do things like
why did
that?
they do it? But
Yeah.
but what if Susan doesn't pay taxes for a couple years? Is
Well,
Tom liable?
No. What happens is if she doesn't follow through, she has this life estate subject to her taking care of the property and paying the property taxes and all the things.
Mhm.
If she does not pay, so that, oh my gosh, that's so good. Let's say Susan doesn't pay the property taxes and there's an alert. Well, what happens is it becomes public notice that there's a tax lien against that property. And Tom might still have his finger on the pulse of said property, which he probably does.
Yeah.
And he's going to get a notice. And you can get notices on certain properties if they go into, like, if they have a lien that comes against them or a tax foreclosure process, some type of a situation where now that property is on the verge of going into foreclosure. And you're like, Kathy, after the first year, you better believe it, baby. So what happens is she doesn't pay the taxes for year 1, year 2, year 3. And Tom's like, hey, Susan, dude, seriously, the only thing I asked you to do is maintain this 50,000 square foot home and pay the tax or whatever, like whatever, 1,200 square foot property on the whatever. All I ask you to do is maintain it. Is if there's a problem, you need to let me know, because basically what happens at that point is it can revert back to Tom or immediately go to Laura. So that would be something. So the devil's in the details, right? So that would be something associated with if Susan didn't take care of what the life estate in the manner that it needed to, it'll either revert back to Tom, but Tom is not the revisionary. He's not the one that has the future interest in said property. And that property could go directly to Laura because Susan was not able to I almost said manifest, wrong word, was not able to manage the property in the manner. But it is also possible that in this kind of situation, Susan, like Tom would be alerted and reach out to Laura and go, okay, you have the future interest in this property. So, you're definitely going to have to cover, it's going to be transferred to you, and you're going to have to pay the back taxes, or you're going to have to do something because you have the future interest in said property. Laura's not walking into this like, wait, what did Tom do this time? Laura's aware. Everybody is basically aware of where they stand. Laura knows she has future interest in that property. She doesn't, I would venture to say, I always make things emotional. I would venture to say that Laura really doesn't want anything to happen to Elizabeth, but she's excited about the idea that she gets the house. I don't know what kind of house this is, but I'm just telling you, in California, any house is a house. So that being said, so if Susan falls into hardship or a financial position that, depending on the additional fine print, which is if Susan isn't able to take care of this, Tom will take care of it and immediately forward it to Laura, or it'll be immediately forwarded to Laura, and Laura will now have to make sure she pays on that on the back taxes, and it could be in the upwards of 5 years worth of taxes in order for that property not to go into foreclosure. But realistically speaking, think about it. Let's say we all work at a bank. And Susan walks in and she's like, hey, I live in this beautiful space and there's no loan on it, but I want to get some work done to the property and I want to do this and I want to do that. And we were like, awesome. It's debt free. And then you find out she doesn't actually own the property outright. She has a life estate. She's like, don't worry, Elizabeth is 23 years old. She's not going to die anytime soon. And you're like, I don't care if Elizabeth dies or not. The loan is in your name and we're going to be hard pressed to get the money from you on your name when the money transfers to Laura. The title is now in Laura's name. There's a concern there. I would venture to say it would be a cloud on title, but it's not a cloud on title because of who owns it. It's a cloud on title because there's a lien under someone's name that was never the owner. She only has a life estate in the property.
Yeah. If I were Elizabeth, I'd watch my back.
That's me too. Every time I teach this class, I'm like, Elizabeth's going to get poisoned. I can feel it. And like, I know that you guys are like, Kathy, why are you building a story? I build stories all the time. Adam and I write mysteries. So I'm immediately always going, Elizabeth's going to be pushed out of a ship. She's on the yacht. She's having living her best life, that kind of thing. So, but per atrevi, to me, out of all of the explanations, I don't know why they took the images out of the book with the update. To me, the images help. Being able to see their faces and the questionable looks. I know it's pixelated. I can't help that. That was actually, these were the images that were in the book, the previous version of the book. But to me, the visual helps. So that's my own thing. But
Yeah, well, thanks for sharing their pictures. So now we can see.
oh no, absolutely. And so I didn't even know you didn't have them. I've got to be honest. We've pulled. So usually I teach the classes and it's pretty intense. We're doing, anywhere from 2 to 5 chapters a week, right? We're trying to push more on the 5 side, but that's okay. And then, so I like keeping the visuals. And if the book doesn't have a visual, I'll keep it in. But looking at it tonight going, oh man, the new book doesn't have the images. And I'm sure someone's like, let's streamline it. I'm like, this is a lot of concentrated information for you to catch. Now, if you're not a visual learner, it probably doesn't affect you, but I'd say more than half of the students that come through the door, because it's a new language, want to be able to visually see what they're looking at versus just somebody's name. So, but anyway, okay. Does that make per atrevi feel a little bit clearer? And we didn't talk about the loan, Sonia. So that in and of itself, now I'm not saying Susan can't get a loan against the property, I would venture to say if a bank did say yes, it would be a portfolio product, meaning that the bank is like, nobody else is going to loan this money to you. So we at our credit union can see that you're in good standings because you're a member of our credit union, and we will give you in the upwards of $100,000, knowing that she should be able to pay that loan off. I mean, technically, think about it. Like cars are going for $80,000, $90,000 now. I can't believe I'm saying that. I'm sure that's how my dad felt when he was like, that house used to be $55,000. I'm like, $55,000, Dad, that house is $810,000. You know what I mean? Like 55 as if. He's like, no, Kathy, 55 was a lot of money back then. I'm like, oh, it's still a lot of money. Let's be honest. But you've got to really keep your eye open for a deal. I mean, you probably did back then too, but anyway. Yeah.
I agree with Sonia. It's just, it seems like a mess with this per attribute. I just feel like, isn't there an easier way now?
Yeah.
I can't get past all these extra steps when it comes to this one, just because I just feel like there's an easier way to just bypass this altogether. Or
Okay.
maybe that's just naive of me. I don't know.
No, it's not naive. So I remember a student like about a year ago, I'm like, I don't know how to explain why anyone would do this. And somebody posted in chat, this is wealthy people problems. I was like, okay, we'll run with that. So if we look at it from the perspective that everybody on the screen right here is has some type of wealth or something where they're, I don't know if I want to say dodging taxes, if that's the right way of putting it, but know that they have an accountant or they have a tax preparer or somebody that's going, okay, Tom, let's do this. In order for you to have a tax break, or in order for Laura to have a tax break, or whomever, why don't we go through these 15 hurdles? It's technically two, but in doing this, we're pushing off Laura owing on this property, and we're stabilizing the fact that you no longer have the house, or you're not going to have a tax break, or you're not going to have to pay taxes on this property, because this property is has been given to somebody else. And so there was no tax benefit or there's no income benefit to you. You did this out of the goodness of your heart and the craziness of your mind. So you aren't going to have to pay on the taxes for giving this property or something. I'm sure it's associated with some type of a tax situation. It could also be, it could also be the way things were done during this period of time, where prior to lending or prior to banking, it could have been something along those lines, where we have Susan has the protection, or Laura has the protection of Elizabeth, or something. Is it complicated? Yes. Are you ever going to experience this? Maybe. I'm going to tell you right now that I've been in the industry since the mid 90s, and in and out because of the different family members in real estate and having lending in my background. But I will go so far as to share with you that I've never experienced this personally. I've never seen paperwork on any of this. So I would venture to say per attribute is associated with like not only just wealthy people, but wealthy people that are keeping a property in a family. So let's spin this a little bit further. Tom's dad passes. Okay. And Susan, I know she looks young, but she had a good plastic surgeon. Okay. So she knows how to make it look really good. So Tom's like, hey, we're going to put the property, and Laura's his sister, we're going to put the property in mom's name, and we'll have the caretaker take over. But for all intents, we'll just make it so that she just, whoever's taking care of her, whoever's whatever, we'll put it in Laura as though the life of Elizabeth. That'll make mom feel better, that she's not just living in the property, but she's living in the property and holding on to it while Elizabeth lives her best life. And then when it's all said and done, even though we know Elizabeth is going to outlive mom, Susan, then, my sister Laura will have the property, and then mom will feel like she has kept the property for the life of Elizabeth, or I mean, like, I don't know. Like, that's what I mean by when I look at some of this stuff, I immediately think Dynasty. I didn't get to watch Dynasty as a kid. So for those of you who are like, you watched Dynasty in the 80s? No, I didn't. I was a little too young for that, and it was a little too late, and I had to go to bed early. But it reminds me, it just kind of errs on the side of something that would happen like on an evening soap opera show. That's why I call it like a telenovela but telenovela, it could like a short story, like something that has a little bit of mystery. Anyway, yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
I might be going too far with this because now
That's okay.
I'm invested. But
I'm sorry.
so say Elizabeth dodges all the poisoning and all that good stuff.
Right,
and
right.
survives everyone.
Yeah.
Can she start the cycle over again? Like,
No, oh man, Erica, that's such a good question. So
Okay.
Tom has, so the machine is in motion. So
Mhm.
Tom is like, hey, Susan, you get to live there until Elizabeth kicks rocks. If you pass before Elizabeth, it will go directly to Laura. But if you outlive Elizabeth and Laura, it goes to Laura's heirs. It's a guarantee that no matter what happens to the property between Tom and Laura or her heirs receive the property because she has future interest. She's technically in limbo, if you want to put it that way, but she
Okay.
knows that she gets the property or her children get the property as their inheritance when all of this mumbo jumbo with Susan and Elizabeth when Elizabeth's no longer a factor, or if Susan dies before Elizabeth, it again will move to Laura in that same respect that Sonia was like, well, what if Laura doesn't pay the property taxes? It would move directly over to Laura, or it might, depending upon the fine print, reverse back to Tom, and Tom would have to recalculate things. The only person that can change the per attribut, obviously Tom before he signs it, but we already know he did, would be to have Laura start the cycle over again.
Oh, okay.
And then she can do whatever she wants to, but I don't think she would. I mean, this is drama. I don't think Laura's in it. That's why she's at the end. So I know I'm building a story over images, but sometimes it's harder. It's a palate cleanser, if you will, or it's okay, if I can look at this as a mystery or as a possible murder, you've got a little bit of that air to it, if you will. That helps me remember per attribut. And I'm like, oh, Paul. And anytime people ask me about per attribut, immediately the name that comes to mind is Tom. Oh, Tom, and you're like, if people are like, Tom who? Anyway, so yeah. But to me, the image, the explanation, it is on page 16. The Google Drive has been updated with any and all updates that we did to our PowerPoint pages when we were reviewing those first 4 chapters, not chapter 5 because we're not done, but we're close. And I uploaded those before we had the Zoom so that you guys could go in and go, oh yeah, we did, this or we did that. I have not though completely transposed the Quizlets over so that we can identify the correction that needs to be done on the fructose neutralis and the difference between that. So fructose industrialis basically means you get to harvest and sell the product off of the trees, right? Fructose neutralis means the trees that are just part of that area, or like California poppies or something along those lines, where the industrialis would be the wine grapes, or the grape vines, and then the grapes themselves would be that what is industrialis, meaning that it would be sent over, go from being real property connected to the property to personal property, which would be sent and manufactured into wine or grape juice or Manischewitz or all of the raisins, right? All right, let's do another one.
Can I ask a question about what you just spoke about, fructus industrialis?
Yeah.
Does the seller have to pay a lease to the buyer to benefit from the implements?
So usually with fructus industrialis and fructus, I spelled it wrong. How did I spell? I spelled it wrong. Does it not have an E? No, it has a something. I'll get to it in just a minute. So when it talks about fructus industrialis, that is in association with the process of leasing. You're leasing the land, right, from the owner of the property. And you have, as an example, put your grapevines or your vines on the property.
Right.
So part of leasing that land could be that the owner of that property gets 10% of the proceeds or something. So they could, when it comes to leases, the lease can actually be a lease in association with just leasing the property, but then they can also do a lease plus other things like a percentage of the sales or something along those lines, so that you have a low overhead with regard to the lease, and then whatever 10% of the sales would be. And think about it, what was it, 93, 90, it might have been 93, 94 when so the Central Valley is known for a lot of things, and one of the things they're known for is raisins. And I think it was 1993, they had there was a problem with the raisin industry and they couldn't sell them. And so at that point, a lot of farmers were losing their farms because they only make money for about 3 months out of the year, but they work all year because they're maintaining the vines, right? And so during that period of time, if I was the owner of the property and I was getting 10% of the sale of, or the 20% of the sale, literally all I would have gotten that year would have been the rent, because they just had warehouses full of raisins. And don't get me wrong, raisins don't really go bad unless mildew gets involved or whatever, right? So and that can be a problem. So there are hiccups and stuff like that with regard to that. But you're asking a really good question. So Fructus industrialis is about not just having a property that provides whether it's cattle, any type of chattel, right? So it can be agricultural, it can be well, agriculture is everything from fruits, vegetables, dairy, to specific types of specialty flowers. One of my dad's friends that he worked with at AT&T actually grew flowers for Martha Stewart before Martha Stewart really started blowing up. So that would have been the 90s too. And he grew specialty flowers in his backyard, and he lived in a suburban neighborhood. So there are things you can do on your property with a very small, and he didn't have a big house either. He probably, what I mean by that is I think he might have had a property that was 4,500 square feet. I mean, and the house is 2,000 square feet. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like and he only had to grow enough per season for like maybe 100 flowers because it was such a specialty. So he had a greenhouse specific for that. So there are ways of Fructus industrialis being on a finer scale than like a large farm. But I know it sounds, you're like, Kathy, there's so many things that you're talking about. I know, guys, I'm just trying to help pull in as much life experience into the madness, because there's vocabulary words and I'll read it and go, I don't even know what that means. And you guys are probably like, why does she not know? Well, the book has like, I don't know, 3,700 vocabulary words, or the books online. And then the Department of Real Estate's like, we're good with 754. So when I'm like, hey guys, it's only 754, you're like, what the heck? I'm not trying to do that to you to make you guys go 700. I'm just trying to tell you, there are a number of words you can learn, but I need you to only learn what the Department of Real Estate needs you to learn, because it's not open book. And I don't know if you guys have ever been to court or ever been on a jury, but going to the Department of Real Estate to take your state exam, they're going to have a metal detector. The parking is going to be crap. So I mean it in the nicest way possible. You're going to be dealing with all of the things that go along with having to go into a state office. So the parking is going to be at least a 15-minute walk, if not 7 to 15-minute walk away from where you need to be. And you might have to go in an elevator upstairs. And if you have to go in an elevator upstairs, you've got to add 5 minutes to that. And then there's all these requirements when you get into that building. So to me, I'd rather try to give you as many tools for success. Get there 45 minutes early. It might feel like it's not 45 because by the time you get there, it's 30. And then you're like, I really need to go to the bathroom. That was a crazy traffic issue. And then you got to go, and then you're like, wait a minute, I can't bring in my purse. No, you can only bring in your phone and your driver's like, and then you're like, but I'm not going to, they're treating you as if you could take offense to what they're doing. And the problem with the situation is, people have done things and had other people go in and take the test for them. So they are treating you as if you're going to do that stuff. Are you going to do that? No, you're not going to do that stuff. You probably were raised like I was, and I already feel guilty. And I get pulled over by the cops. I'm like, what if they find a gun? I'm like, I don't even have a gun. What am I talking about? Like immediately my mind starts building a creative story, which sounds crazy. I know. Okay, let's go with another one. What else you guys want to talk about? Unit 2. Let's go back into unit 2. Obviously, I don't know how to spell whatever I was trying to spell. Oh, wait, would you like me to share my screen with you? I will. I apologize. You guys, I am the worst. I know I'm the worst.
You're not. You're
It
amazing.
just happens. Oh, thanks. But it does happen. You know that. I'm like, what did I do now?
No, it's
I-
comforting because your brain works like mine. So
Oh, I apologize ahead of time, not because your brain works like mine, but just I know I'm all over the map. So
Me
life
too.
estates. Oh, you too. Okay, good. Life estates are life estates. Please just know what life estate means. Life estate is one that is limited in duration of a measuring life. So a life estate is limiting duration of a measuring life. Does that mean that that life estate is of the life of the person that holds it? No, but it is of the measuring life of someone. So you do need to know that specifically. The state exam loves to trip you up, and it'll say stuff like, a life estate is one that is limited to in duration of a measuring life, B, what is it called? An expiration date. C, and you're like, wait, could it be an expiration date? I think it's a measuring of a life. So they'll give you the answer, and then they'll give you an answer that might be the answer. So how do we handle the situation? The energy and or anxiety or concern. And just as a reminder, when we were kids, and the night now, if hopefully somebody, if you, whether you celebrated Hanukkah or whether you celebrated Christmas or whether you celebrated Kwanzaa or whatever the holiday was that you were, all of them, because our family is very mixed with we celebrate as many holidays as we can get together and eat food. So all of that being said, the night before, whatever this holiday was, or the day of, as a kid, you're anxious, but you're excited and you're happy and you're joyful. And then something happens when we become adults. And instead of us being excited and slightly anxious, but with joy, it becomes fear. And why am I feeling? It's the same chemicals going off in our body. And for whatever reason, hold on, Bubba, what are you going to do? You're 8 pounds. What are you going to do? What are you? Go get him. I tell you what, she learned how to bark. I thought she was going to stay a cat forever, and she doesn't. So anyway, all of that being said, we need to take into account how we felt when we were a kid and that energy and that exhaustion after a big event. And as adults, it's like we aren't allowed to have that excitement anymore, and we're not allowed to have that emotion anymore. And like they show people on TV that get so excited that they panic or they faint or they're crying, and people are like, oh, they look silly. But the thing is, as a kid, it's okay. But for whatever reason, after we get to a certain age, people are like, you're acting immature. It's like, no, you're not acting immature. You're just living your best life. So after saying all of that, I want you through the process of what we're going through to understand that taking the state exam, if you have anxiety or if you have fear or you have concern, tell me, what's the worst thing that could happen? You go take the state exam. What's the worst that could happen? You take your open book exam with me. What is the worst thing that could happen? The worst.
we fail.
Okay. So what do we do now? Now that we've failed taking the open book exam, we get one other chance to take it, right? For that week. And now we know where we were, now we know where we weren't as strong. So when we don't pass the book exam initially, we get a message saying, you need to study, you're 30% right in this area, you're 15% right in this direction. So then we go back and we research those areas, or we just rip all the pages from that area out and put that in front of us. We're like, forget the rest of these 300 pages. We just need 20. And then we review that, and then we do the open book exam, and then we ace it. But we get past that initial, oh no, what if, right? And I did not pass the state. I'm telling you, I have a family full of real estate agents. And when I talk about the walk of shame, I had to go home and go to work with all of these people and tell them I didn't pass. And my brother, so I don't know if I shared with you, but when Saigon fell, my parents sponsored 2 boys from Vietnam. So my eldest brother, whose third language was English, is totally making fun. How can you not know English? How can you not pass a test in your own language? I'm like, shut it down, bro. But you get treated like such an idiot, like you're so dumb. But the thing is, I had test anxiety. I didn't know I had test anxiety, and nothing. Dude, it was 1999, 2000. They didn't diagnose adults with test anxiety or some of these other things. I'm sure that if they wanted to test me, or I don't even know if I could even get to the test, I had such anxiety over all this stuff, but I passed it. So what I need you to do is I need you to think about what are the worst things could possibly happen. And then from that point forward, how do we prove success? How do we master that next step in our learning experience so we can look back and say, if I did it, you can do it. If I can get to this point, I got to this point because somebody believed me, and I do believe in each one of you. That's why I have 200 plus students a semester, and I will take time and do a Zoom, a one-on-one with you. That's why I'm doing these live events. I'm not doing them because don't get me wrong, I do enjoy talking with you guys, but I might not have an answer. And if I don't have an answer, what are we going to do? We're going to ask Google. We're going to research it. We're going to pull up the book, because I'd rather find it in the book and say, that's on page 16. That's where per atra V is. And this is why this works, why this doesn't work, and continue to move forward. So be encouraged. I don't know if I'm encouraging you. I hope I am. Hold on just a second. There's garlic bread in the in the air fryer. Sorry, I like prepped like at break. We had lunch, right, guys? I threw clam chowder in the crock pot and tried to butter up some corn to throw it in there. And then after class, I put in the air fryer. I did the garlic bread because we like cheesy. I don't know about you, but if you don't put cheese on something, it's not good enough. It has to have that plus the cheese. And so I'm a cheese person. Yeah. So anyway, all that being said, okay, worst thing is you don't pass. Okay, you don't pass. Then we hit the ground running and we take that open book quiz the second time. But before we take it, we text Kathy and we're like, I need to talk to you. This is a 9/11 test question concern. And then we talk through where are the areas that you're strong, where are the areas that you're weak. Okay, so understanding the terminology on this or understanding the terminology on that, what can we do to help you hit the ground running and be successful the second time around? Okay, and then worst case scenario, you don't pass the second time. You're Kathy, what's the deal? I want you to get on the phone with customer service, and I want you to talk to customer service and say, I want to extend this class. I want to do the student, I want to do the student driven or do this on my own. And then we meet each of us one-on-one for the next, at least once or twice a week for the next 18 days. And you go through that class on your own, and then you call me, and then we make each other accountability partners. And then we go, okay, so how did we do this time? I crashed and burned. No, not a problem. Let's get up. Let's do this. I'm not willing. I'm here. I'm serious. I know that my Google Voice is not my my mobile phone. But I get push notifications. And the reason it's not my mobile phone is I can actually read voicemails and all the other stuff and then get back to you on my Google Voice, where I can't necessarily do that with my regular phone. And you'll see that I put my regular phone on airplane mode when I am lecturing, because it would be blown up. Not because hello, Macy's is having a sale, people. I mean, there's little things. All right. So, okay, next, where are we? What do we need? Where do we go from here?
What percentage do we have to pass by?
I always tell people 69.5 because it rounds up. You
Okay.
just need a C-. And my mom would say, and my mom always said, Kathy, C's get degrees. And I would cry, but Mom, I don't want to get a C. I want to pass. She's like, what part of C doesn't mean pass, Kathy? Well, what about my GPA? And what if a school doesn't want to accept me because my GPA is low? And she was like, let's deal with that then. Let's pass now. So I have a question for you. What does the Department of Real Estate do when they see that you have passed your certificates are there and you've passed? Do they allow you to take the state exam if they think you only got a C? They don't care.
No.
They don't care. They just, if you have that certification, that certificate that says you took the class and passed with a minimum of C, they just want to see that you got the certificate. They only need to know that you have comprehension, open book comprehension of 70% of the questions asked of you, not 70% of the book. So how do we pass 70% of the questions asked of you? Well, I want you to go in and I want you to review at the end of each one of those units, the questions, because in the first book of this class, the final or the open book exam is basically verbatim the same questions that are at the back of each of the units. That's this book. And I'll give you a different instruction for book 2. But for the principal book in and of itself, the questions at the end of each of those units is associated almost verbatim with what the open book exam is going to be online for your principal's course, that open book. Okay. How are you guys feeling now?
I mean,
All
I
right.
still want to pass on the first go, but I'm feeling
Yeah,
better.
but you know what? Once we get once you get an ounce of success, a smidgen, a tis tasty, you're gonna fly through the next 2 books, and you're gonna be like, yeah, we got it, Kathy. Next. I promise. Book 2, you're gonna be like, why was book 1 so hard? Because book 2 is like snooze fest. You're like, okay, you're talking to me about what I should wear to work. I know. And then it'll talk to you about how do you communicate with people as a telemarketer? And you're like, I'm not going to do telemarketing. That's so like circa, 1999. Why would I? But these are foundational courses, meaning this is how things used to be done, or this is how things have been done in the past. And this is how things are still hitting the ground running in some other states. But here in California, I don't pick up the phone, even if I know the person that's on the other line sometimes. And I don't mean that against anyone. I'd rather just text.
Oh yeah.
So, so how are we going to get cold calls? If I call you and it's, even if it said my name, you're like, she's calling me about real estate. I do not want to buy a house. I wish this lady stopped calling. People aren't going to take that call. How do we build rapport with people? Who is your niche market? Who are the people that you're trying to help buy a home?
So we
Well,
do get
friends and
into
family.
that in
Oh,
the
yeah.
other books. I mean, I've been just so focused on this book. I haven't even really flipped through the other ones.
No,
if that is a
don't.
question. Okay.
Don't.
Okay, good.
Look, if you can't sleep, feel free to go through the
Oh, no.
glossary at the end of the book, because at all the end of all of these books, you start reading some of these terms and you're like, you're counting sheep. These classes are highly concentrated. This in and of itself is its own language. You're kind of taking the baby bar, because in the state of California, it's contractual law. And I've had people say, Kathy, it's more like the bar. Look, bar, baby bar, double bar, Twix bar, you call it whatever you want to call it. I need you to be able to not just master this book, because you're going to look at it and go, I'm not going to do 90% of the stuff that's in this book. I know it's foundational. I need you to see how the foundation of the house is poured. And you're like, Kathy, I just want to decorate. I know, but the state of California is requiring that you are aware of how the foundation of this process is started. And my mom used to also say, Kathy, just spit out the bones, meaning don't just get rid of what you don't need and don't complain about it. But you're going to hear me as I lecture through. That's dumb. We're not doing that. No one does that. And it's like, dial it back, Kathy. It's foundational. I need to tell it needs to be explained of how people can. What's your niche market? Are you going to be doing advertisements on the radio? Well, if your niche market are people over 65 that are registered particular, whether Republican, Democrat, or independent, then maybe you would be having an advertisement on that AM station for yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't know what your niche market is. So I can kick it and tell you it's dumb, or I can say, hey, and start identifying what's in the book and go, okay, real life. Who do you know that's in this, that does these things? Or do you know any empty nesters? Or do you know anybody that watches local news? Local news is dead, or not. Let me rewind. Local television, or television in general, is dead. People watch everything on the interwebs, right? Or on, like, I follow a couple people on Twitch, and I watch them either on Twitch or on YouTube, and I just let it play as my white noise in the background. And that's my thing. I mean, I think when I was a kid, a lot of moms and or stay-at-home dads watched soap operas, and that was their thing for that period of time. That was their white noise. So we need to find out who your niche market is so that we can hyper focus for book 2, who that is and how you're going to market to them. And it also talks about, like, book 2 also talks about, oh, well, you're going to need to invest like $1,500 to $2,000 in marketing a month. And I'm like, no, you're not. I have 2 Wix websites, and to maintain them, it's $18. To maintain my website addresses is like, I think $1.99 a year. All my social media have the same pictures, including my Twitch account. Like, when we'll talk through that stuff too. Now, if you want to, if you want to, though, if you want to invest $1,500 or $2,000 a month in your marketing, who's your niche market. If it is
Right.
people over 65, then go be on the local news channel in the mornings between 10 and 10:15 and talk to them about how you'd love to sit down with them at their house and talk to them about upgrading or downsizing or any of those empty nesters. If it's younger people, then go on Instagram and start doing live sessions, Q&As. Guys, ask me anything. TikToks, you can do 7-second TikToks of like, hey guys, I'm a real estate agent in California. What do you think? And let them, if it's under 7 seconds, it's on everyone's For You page, right? And so we'll talk more about that kind of stuff. Does that have anything to do with my real estate degree? No, or sorry, my real estate license? No, it has to do with my master's in business and the focus on social media that I can talk to you guys about that stuff. It's not, so it's life experiences I've experienced. And then I look at the book and go, okay, that's too, we're going to pull it in. What will work for you? And then we'll pull the chapters and try to make them live in your life experiences right now. If this is your second language, your third language, if this is your, I'm starting over from scratch, I walked away from another business. How do we make this your main hustle versus a side hustle? How do we transition from it? And we'll talk about how much money should you have set aside and how much money should be your overhead. And like, so that's book 2. So if we can just slide through book 1 and all of its drama and all of its legal terminology, and then get to the fun book, which is book 2. No, I'm just trying to encourage you guys. We're not alone. We can do this. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, wait, you're muted. I'm sorry. Let me
Sorry, no. Sorry if I keep jumping over people. But looking in book 1, I know we briefly touched on like contracts and stuff.
Yes.
Um,
We're going to go right through contracts in book 2, and we're going to go, okay, we are the agents for the seller, and the seller is Fred and his wife, and I can't remember who it is. And we're going to talk about their property and how they want their property to be listed for a particular amount of money. And how do we negotiate and prove to them? Well, it's called the CMA or the Comparable Market Analysis, but I call it the Country Music Awards because CMA, just in capitals, and I'm not a huge country fan. It's just that the logo reminds me of that. So I'll reference it as, okay, what do we do with people like this? We give them the Country Music Awards, the Comparable Market Analysis. We show them where the market is. We're in a bear market. We're no longer in a bull market. What does that mean, Kathy? Well, before, as a seller, it's like, I would like $3 million for my house. And everyone's like, here's 3,100,000, 3,100,000. Here's 3,200,000. Here's, now we're in a bear market where people are like, I would like $3 million for my house. And then people are like, here's $2.5 million. And you're going to leave all your furniture and your husband. And no. You can't, that's personal property and you can put it in the contract. I don't know about the husband, but you can put some of that stuff in the contract. But we're on the we're not that, it's not that extreme. We haven't lost $500,000 on everything out there. Everything over 2 million pretty much stays consistent, even if there's a worldwide crash in a market, because the people that have the money always have the money. But anything where there's a loan, which is 80% of the business that's out there, those are the houses that we're negotiating with. And I want to get you guys to a point where not only you have your salesperson's license, but you get to the point where then you become a broker and you can still hang your license under a broker and you're a broker associate, or you go to your broker and you're like, I have my broker's license now. I want to open a branch of your office. And then you run that office based on the way your broker had their office running. And then you're like, I want to tweak some stuff. I no longer want to be a branch manager of your office. I'm starting my own brand, my own broker's office. And because you've built rapport and built your local community. That's my thing. What's your niche market? Your niche market isn't just your friends, family, and your foes, because you know your frenemies are going to be like, I need to find out how successful she is. And the truth is, very successful. We are going to make it rain, even if it just looks like that on social media, and at home we're eating top ramen and crying, or whatever the situation, right? We're going to present success, but we're not going to present success at the throat of our clients. We're going to present success because our clients want us to help their friends and family. And how do we get them to let us help? You ask them, what's the worst thing that's ever happened? Sorry, rewind, start over again. We don't ask them the worst thing that's ever happened to them with a real estate agent. We go, what's your best experience with a real estate agent, and how can I be that for you, if not better? And 90% of the time, people are going to be like, I've never had a good experience with agents. Real estate agents are the worst. They're uneducated. They don't manage themselves. They're never on time. You're like, okay, I need to be on time. I need to get Grammarly subscription. I need to make sure that this is a client that I really don't necessarily want to work with, but I don't mind getting the commission because it's probably going to be a good payday. So I'm going to build the way all of my how I treat all of my clients off of this person, because they are sharpening my skills. Iron sharpens iron, and go from there. And you're going to have unhappy clients, but to be honest, I think Tiffany and Company has and Louis Vuitton also, and Chanel and Fenty. I think everybody, no matter who you are, has somebody that's not happy with the product that they've received. And the reality is they were never happy. And then they get the product, and then they realize that product is not bringing them the Maria Kondo of it all. It's not bringing them joy. And you're like, yeah, you didn't hire me to bring you joy. You hired me to help you buy a 5-bedroom, 2-bathroom in that neighborhood that I told you not to buy in, which you are yelling at the top of your brain, and you can't share technically with them. But you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I really thought that was the neighborhood you wanted to be in. And based on my notes, what can I do to you know what I mean? You're still saying, what can I do to help benefit you or whatever. So
Do you determine your niche market by something that you love or something that you foresee is going to be opportunistic for the market in the future? I mean, how do you, because I have
Okay.
no idea.
Opportunistic,
Mhm.
go there. You're like, okay, Kathy, remember that lady that you were talking about that got the $500,000 commission after that was her split with her office? You're like, I want to be the one selling that $45 million house. Okay, no problem. That's a goal, right? But
Mhm.
your niche market is your friends and family. And we're polishing ourselves with our friends and family as we go through this process, because they're the ones that, well, some of them are going to be the ones that give you the grace. And one of the things you can say is, hey guys, I'm new to this. So some of these disclosures we're going to be going through are not disclosures used on every single file. So we're going to walk through them section by section, and you learn from this process of working with, and sometimes your family is going to put you through it. And you're like, excuse me, I did not even charge you enough. There's not enough money in the world for this, but it will help polish your skills. But if, and I mean this, hey, if a $45 million listing drops in your lap, you take me to coffee and tell me how it goes. I've never personally experienced that. I've shown how multi-million-dollar houses. I've talked to people that are very wealthy. And most of the people I know that are wealthy are like, look, it's Taco Tuesday and you can get 2 for $1. I'm like, are you serious right now? So finding the dynamic that makes you want to go to work is the thing. I don't love real estate. I love the lending side, because I can go, okay, you've got a 30-year loan. Let's pay your mortgage forward. So if you got a little extra change, I know you already paid February's payment, but you have enough in your bank to pay March's payment. Pay it now. And then in March, I want you to make April's payment and start paying your mortgage forward. So you literally are paying your house off in 14 years. Or let's say you can pay your mortgage ahead by a year and a half, and then something happens to you or your husband or your partner, fiance, your friend, whoever, whatever, and you can't pay a mortgage for a year. Well, you've already paid ahead for a year. So those are the kind of things that that I enjoy talking about and walking through on the daily. If your thing is acquisitions and you're like, I don't necessarily love the idea of eminent domain, but I love being part of the government and going and letting people know that we need to take their property from them for public, whatever you guys, whatever your thing is, then that's the direction. But if your end game is, I don't want to deal with the 80 percentile or the populace, I want to work with Harry and Meghan, or I want to work with Oprah, or I want to work with Tyler Perry or Ellen DeGeneres. I'm trying to think, like literally in my mind, I'm like looking at the Santa Barbara coast as I'm talking about all of these people. Tyler, I know that he's in Atlanta, Georgia, when he's in Atlanta, Georgia, but I'm just saying, like, there's an area where particular people purchase that are at a certain financial place. And if that is the niche market you want to go to, then how do I'm asking you, rub elbows with the people that do those things. We find out where they hang out. I love the Pebble Beach, the Pro-Am that I go to. I love going up there and volunteering and letting multimillionaires, there were a couple billionaires there too, let them know they can't go into the putting range because they don't have the security to pass go. And I've got to be honest with you, I also have a headset that, or a walkie. So when Charles Schwab of Charles Schwab needed to get in, and I was like, I'm so sorry, sir. And he's like, don't you know who I am? It wasn't Charles that did this, but and I haven't seen Charles in a few years, but I remembered as I was driving home, you're rubbing elbows with millionaires and billionaires right now. Like there's something about being, and I'm not, and you're like, Kathy, but you're a volunteer. 90% of the people that volunteer at Pebble Beach live at Pebble Beach. That means 90% of the people that are doing the volunteering probably make more money than some of the people that are playing at the golf course. So when I'm talking to you about, so where are the places where these people that you want to, where this goal is, where do they hang out and where do they casually? Now, I'm not going up and being all chummy like, hey guys, what's up? I'm just there and I'm experiencing things. And sometimes the favor comes in the door and you just walk with favor and you just know you're in the right place for the right reason. And it inspires you. And then someone finds out that, oh, you were at such and such. Oh my gosh, so was I. And so I'm just saying that where are the people that you really want to work with, and how do you get into those inner circles? I know I was just a volunteer. And if I was picking up their napkins, and I'm picking up their whatever, like wasn't doing that, but I'm saying we start somewhere. How do we get to the people that we want to rub our elbows with? And we want to rub our elbows with those that are affluent. So we need to go to our local Rotary Club. And that way, the people that are at that local Rotary Club or at that local community center club or whatever it is are aware that you're trying to build the infrastructure of the community that you live in. And then people are like, holy cow, you're wanting to build up the community too? You're like, yes, I do not want crime in my neighborhood. I would like the lights on the street to be replaced in a timely manner, or the trees trimmed, or the, whatever. And so you start building your local community. And as you build your local neighborhood or your community, people start to notice. And then so there are a few of those other goals we've got to set in place in order for you to get where you want to get. So let's polish everything off of our friends and family. Let's polish our skills and go work for a broker that will train us. And then we go from there. I apologize. I'm a talker. I'm not apologizing for talking, but I apologize for, okay. So we just have to figure out where we are and where we're going. All right. More questions about class. Wait, I have a chat message, right? Sorry, I'm not checking chat, guys. Okay, good. Loving the question. Perfect. What else can we chat-a-lack about? What else are we needing in order to hit the ground running coming Tuesday or for the next assignment? And for those of you that are not in our Tuesday, Thursday, or our Saturday, Sunday classes, feel free to jump in too. But it looks like we have everybody pretty much from those classes. If you've got to jump ship, I totally get it. For anyone that's messaging, letting me know that they have a concern, feel free to do that. I can go over to Twitch. I haven't even been checking the messages. These are Minecraft mods. Sorry, guys. It says that you're playing Minecraft. I know. I apologize. I did not fix that. I wonder something. Viewers follow. Okay, so somebody's trying to sell me viewers or chats or whatever on Twitch. That's part of the reason why I haven't necessarily been listening. So for those of you on Twitch, I know I'm supposed to game with you guys at some day, and I promised you in 2022, and it didn't happen. 2023 is new. Maybe we'll do a big Minecraft. I don't know. They have a new update. That's very cool. So for those of you that don't know, I started doing when the pandemic hit, a lot of my students from when I was teaching junior high and high school before I started teaching college were messaging me saying that class sucked. And I was like, well, let's play games online. And so after class hours, not during class. And so I started learning how to game, which I'm still not good at. How is the reserving life estate different from a reverse mortgage? That's a really good question. Let's look it up in the book. Because we need to be able to foundationally find in the book what it is that we're trying. Reserving a life estate principle.
I mean, the developer is holding on to that land and they're paying them the expenses until that couple croaks. And then, um, and then they take ownership of it. And that
Right.
seems to me the same as how a reverse mortgage works.
Okay, well,
Oh, no, you own, okay, I'm sorry.
no, that's good. Reserving a life estate. But you're making a really good point.
I guess in a reverse mortgage, you still retain ownership of it. But then
Yeah, 15. So we're on page 15, accurate. So reserving a life estate, man, right on the money. Let me share the screen. So when you're reserving a life estate, you're basically saying, so let's look at it this way. Sonia, I'm old, and Sonia's like, Sonia's a developer, and she's like, hey, Kathy, she doesn't really come out and say it, but we know she's thinking it. Sister, you need to just, anyway, you have a cool piece of property. I'd like to develop it, and you are getting up in years. So I would like to buy the property from you. And I'm like, not a problem. So I sell Sonia the property so that it's her ownership now. And Sonia buys the property from me for $500,000, and I don't die for 10 years. And when I do, that property is worth $5 million. Sonia, as a developer, is looking at it going, Kathy's eventually either going to leave this to her family or she's going to do something. But if I get it now, so that reserving of life estate, developers will look at that reserving of a life estate and go, if I can get a hold of that property now, it's going to be money in the bank. And let's see where that one is. The slide has images of that one too, to kind of give off a better, there it is. So reserving a life estate, an elderly couple sells the property to the developer, and the developer goes, okay, because you're reserving the life estate, that means you can live in the property. And upon the death of that elderly couple that sold it to the developer, even if that property, even if the people live for another 20 years, that developer is building equity on that property, right? So the developer purchased the property from the elderly couple, and let's go back to the numbers that we had before, for $500,000. Let's say they bought the property from that elderly couple for $500,000. That couple has the money from that property, and they're living their life. And they can't get a loan on that property, and they're not paying the property taxes on that property or anything. But that developer knows that that land is going to be worth a lot of money in the future. And as a developer, he might be able to, or they might be, developer looks like a dude in the picture. They might be able to go to a bank and say, I have future interest in this property. Technically, I own it, but there is a couple that's living there. I'd like to get a $500,000 loan against this property to go towards this or go towards that. They can he as the developer can do things with that property. They have the right to live on that property, but they no longer have any loans on that property. They don't pay the taxes or anything. So that developer can actually go and have that as a, it's an asset, because there's no money owed on that property. So that can actually be one of the portfolio properties that developer has, and that developer can say, yes, we do have this property. The couple, it is a reserved, reserving a life estate. We do have an elderly couple that's living there, and they might be there another 10 years, but we project that this particular property is going to be worth $5 or $10 million in the next 10 years. And the reason I'm saying $5 or $10 million is I know of when I had another student in the class, Raymond. He was such a doll. He was hilarious. He'd always send me private messages of links of lawsuits and stuff that were real versus the ones that I had in the book, because his son is going through law school, and he'd message him. Anyway, it was really sweet. Anyway, he was the one that was talking to us living in South San Francisco, how the neighbor across the way was actually did have a reserving a life estate on their property. They did sell it to the developer, and this was 10 years ago, and the property was worth like $500,000, and it is worth over $5 million now. And so developers, this isn't a situation where anybody can go to a developer and say, buy my land. But this is a situation where an elderly couple, if they know what's happening in the city, right? So we were talking about that in class today, how we can go to like a city or the county office and see the map and see where things are going. So what would be an example of that? In 2028, Los Angeles is supposed to have the Olympics, right? So in that respect, we could go, okay, the Olympics are coming, and in the area that it's projected that they're going to be putting in a stadium or adding this or adding that, we just happen to have a house. And and we're like, oh man, we should reach out to, the locals and see if there's any developers in the area that that would like to purchase this property, because they could do something with this by 2028. Or we go to the bank and do something along those same lines, because we know the value of that property is going to continue to increase. In the same way, the stadium that was put in down near is it Bellflower or Compton?
Inglewood. My granny
Inglewood.
lives right down the street.
Okay. I'm like,
Bellflower.
wait, I know I'm missing some, but I'm missing.
It shot up too.
Yeah, crazy, huh?
Yeah.
Ooh.
So, Adam's brother was looking at a weird piece of property that was like only 1,800 square feet. And it was like a 2-story industrial building, but you could probably put an apartment above it, kind of a situation. And he was going to pay, I think, 118 out the door. That same piece of property is over $500,000. And it was only a few years ago that he was looking at the property. So he's kicking himself.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, but what ifs, And so you can see how reserving a life estate in that kind of a situation, how it financially, the developer's like, you can live there as long as you want to. I know that money's that there's just money, that's gravy. Like, we're going to be fine. So that's reserving a life estate. So now let's look at what a reverse mortgage is. A reverse mortgage is a situation where, let's say this specific elderly couple, and we'll just expand the image so we can have it pixelated further. They don't look that old. Maybe because I'm getting older. This couple goes, you know what, we don't owe anything on our property, and we'd rather have a little extra money a month. We're okay if we don't have a property to give to our kids, or whatever the situation. So they go to the bank, they go to a mortgage bank that specializes in reverse mortgages, and they tell them, we'd like to do a reverse mortgage. And there's more than one option for a reverse mortgage. One of the options for a reverse mortgage is that they get a small amount of money every month for either their life or for 20 years or for whatever. Usually people in their 80s aren't projected to live for another 20 years. I remember the day my grandmother was dancing by the mailbox, and the reason she was dancing by the mailbox is she had received more in retirement than she had as a teacher, which she thought was really exciting. I didn't get it. I totally get it now. Like they were still paying her. She died a week shy of her 100th birthday, and she loved every time she got paid after that day, because she's like, I'm truly retired. I think she was like 79 at the time. I'm really retired now. I'm making more than I made while I was actually a teacher. Anyway, all that being said, let's get back to the couple, the elderly couple that goes in for that reverse mortgage. They go to the bank, they fill out the application information, they meet the age requirement, they meet all of the things, and the bank goes, okay, your house is worth $750,000, and we can have you receive $800 for the rest of your life, or what we deem to be for 20 years. And then they'll, let's see what that would be. $1,000 for 20 years. So let me get my calculator out. So we're doing 12 times 1,000 times 20 would be $240,000. And basically what the bank is saying is, and if you live longer, that's fine. But we want to make it so that if in your passing, your family wants to refinance out of that reverse mortgage, or sell the property so that we get paid back and then they get what's left of the equity, we can do that. So a reverse mortgage is set up in such a way that the elderly couple would either get a stipend of like $1,000 a month for the next 20 years or 30 years, or they would receive a chunk of change of like, say, $250,000 or $240,000, and they could do what they wanted to with that money. But when reverse mortgages were initially out there, there was a lot of questionable practices, and a lot of elderly families, couples were losing their homes, and it was considered elder abuse. So they had to do a revision on how reverse mortgages work. Is that different than this couple and the developer? It is in the respect that the developer purchased the property from them, and yes, they're living there, but they receive that chunk of money. And when they die, their children do not get the right to that property or to buy the developer out of the developer's right to the property. They've literally sold the property to the developer. When it comes to reverse mortgage, the family finds out when their parents pass that they're in a reverse mortgage and they owe the bank like $240,000, and the house is worth, you know, 750 or $1 million or whatever. And the family can sell the property with that $250,000 being paid off in the sale to the lender that did the reverse mortgage for them. So it's definitely different because the elderly couple still has ownership under the reverse mortgage. Whereas when there's a reserving of a life estate, they've literally sold their right to the property other than to live there to the developer. Does that help, or does that make it more confusing? Crickets. I'm hearing crickets. That's fine. Crickets are fine. I know it's a lot of information. I apologize. Okay. Next question, please. Although that was a little flat, I do apologize. We're good. And I know it's 8 o'clock or 7:52. I will go to Costco and get my eyes checked eventually. I'm still fighting it for the last 3 years. I do not want to get my eyes checked. Perfect. Okay, cool. Cool. All right. How are we doing? Okay, it's 8 o'clock. Some of you have been with me since 8:30 this morning. Other than for that snippet of checking to see if Amazon delivered anything and eating dinner. I can go on for hours. Okay, good. I'm not here to keep you forever. So why don't we try to do same bat time, same bat place, see if we can't get the weekenders as well as the student directed the independent students, and see if we can't get them on track with us to ask questions as well. There might be some repetition. Repetition helps with retention as long as the repetition is accurate, right? So we can say practice till you're perfect, but if you've been practicing something that's not perfect, you're going to be really good at something. You're going to be really good at something really bad. So we got to figure out what that is.
Will it work if I say I'm rich, I'm rich, I'm rich, I'm rich?
Yes. Okay. Or how about we take 5 minutes in the day and say to yourself, you know what? I deserve to receive what is needed for the dreams that I have envisioned. And just like everyone else, I have the right to build upon those dreams. And I'm giving myself that opportunity. And then you're like, no, you don't deserve. Wait, I do. Why don't I? What did I told Adam, I was so angry. Those of you that don't know who Adam is, I call him my husband. We are getting married. We bought the house. That's our wedding gift to ourselves. We're not doing a wedding. This is our thing. But one of the things I said to him, I was so mad because they re-edited one of the Marvel movies and it cost 70 million. And I just yelled, like, if they can waste $70 million on a 6-hour movie, there's got to be $70 million I can waste on something. And so I know that's harsh and angry, but the reality of it is, if $70 million is just floating out there for somebody to use to re-edit something that was already filmed, how much money is out there for you to do something powerful? And so please, there's billions of people on this earth. And out of those billions, we technically only need, say, I don't know, maybe 24 families in your area. So you have that's 2 sales a month. And I want you to, and I mean, I was raised in a religious home. I don't want to sound mystic. We prayed it in and we prayed it out. And that's what my aunt used to tell us. You pray everybody in and you pray everybody out. And I'm not trying to get religious with you guys. If you want to have meditation or if you want to have any of that other stuff, your journey is your journey. But I want you to give yourself at least 5 minutes a day of peace and let your mind, remind your mind that you were called to such a time as this. And that you're here for a time and a season, and that you are meant to reach people and bless them. And you might be the only blessing people ever experience in their whole entire life. And you need this money for whatever that dream or vision that was woven into you in your mother's womb. Okay, so please be encouraged. You're on the right path. You're going in the right direction. This is an odd industry, but it's going to be okay. you're coming in, we need you. There's a bunch of, I mean it in the nicest way I can say it. There's a bunch of nut jobs in here that are going to be like, you're taking my clients. No, they were never your clients if I could take them. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. You obviously are the only agent they could get on the phone. And so that's something, again, I scream at the top of my brain. I try not to say out loud. Okay, so be encouraged. You're not alone. I am a text message away. I'm an email away. I'm a phone call, voicemail when I remember to read them. But you're not alone. So I just want you to power through units 1 is to the best of your ability. Units 1 through 4, we're finishing up 5. We're going to hit as many of the other ones as we possibly can next week. And then we'll finish out, I think, on Tuesday. I have a message to say, unfortunately, I have to go. No. Dude, we were for longer than I expected. I try not to have
That's
these more
me.
than
So
half
sorry.
hour.
I have 8 p.m. Zoom meeting.
Oh, I know. No, don't feel bad. And these are, you don't, there's no requirement to be here. Definitely, this is supposed to be as comfortable as it possibly can, so I can answer any questions you guys have. We'll talk about how to interview a broker, and I'm going to try to always have these. Okay. But be encouraged. Oh my gosh, absolutely. Be encouraged. Go. It's 8 o'clock. I understand. I have family too. I don't know if you guys are trying to dodge them. I'm not really trying to dodge them, but I know it's been a long day. So I'm grateful and I'm blessed that you guys gave me this opportunity to talk to you. Any questions, email me. Any questions, text me. Any questions, we'll hit the ground running Tuesday morning. Units 1 through 4, unit 5 is not a bad idea. Quizlets are your best friend. Even if they drive you mad and some of the answers are not right, Quizlets are still your best friends. Absolutely. Thank you guys. Thank you, each and every one of you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being in class. And I'll see you on Tuesday. I love the way. Okay. Talk to you soon. Oh, and Love wants to say bye. Absolutely. Say bye. I don't know why she's being silly now, but anyway. All right. God bless you guys. Have a wonderful day, evening, morning, weekend. See you Tuesday. See you whatever day. Okay. Bye.